But it feels so good, yeah. But it feels so good, yeah. I know you're loco. I know you're loco. But it feels so good, yeah.
Of my eye, girl, I never loved one like you. Man, oh man, you're my best friend. I dream it too. There's nothing there ain't nothing that I need. Well, hot and heavy pumpkin pie, chocolate candy, Jesus Christ, ain't nothing please me more than you. Oh, let me go home. Home is wherever I'm with you.
Test. Test. Hello. 1, 2, 2. Test. 1, 2.
Through the jungle, through the dark, girl, I never loved one like you. That's true. Laughing till we think we'll die, barefoot on the summer night. Never could be sweeter than with you.
Test. Hello. Test. Test.
Do you remember that day you fell out of my window?
1, 2.
Well, you fell on the concrete, nearly broke your ass, and you were bleeding all over the place, and I rushed you out to the hospital. You remember that?
Test.
Well, there's something I never told you about that night.
Test.
While you were sitting in the back seat smoking a cigarette you thought was going to be your last, I was falling deeply in love with you.
Test. 1. Test. Test. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. 1, 1, 2, 2. 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2. Home is where I'm loving you.
Hello, Christina. How are you doing today, Christina, buddy? Have you had a nice day? 1, 2, 2, 2. 1, 2, 2, 2. 1, 2.
One, two, two.
Sell your soul to me. I will never let go completely. One day our hands will be strong enough to hold me. I might not be there for all your battles, but you'll win them eventually. I pray that I'm giving you all that matters. So one day you'll say to me, I love my life. I am power, I am magical, I am me. And God knows I've made a few. I started to question the angels, and the answer they gave and the courage to face the madness and sing it because it's true. I love my life. I am wonderful. I am magical. I am me. I love my life. Find the others with hearts like yours. Run far, run free. I'm with you. I love my life. I am powerful. I am beautiful. I am free. I love my life. I am wonderful. I am magical. I am me. I love my life. I am powerful. I am beautiful. I am free. I love my life. I am wonderful. I am magical. I am me. I love my life. And finally, I'm where I wanna be. If you love somebody, better tell them why they're here, 'cause they just may run away from you. You'll never know quite when, well, then again it just depends on how long the time is left for you. Now, I've had the highest mountains, I've had the deepest river. You can have it all, but now keep moving. Take it in, but don't look down. 'Cause I'm on top of the world. I'm on top of the world. Waiting on this for a while now. Paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting this crowd. this feeling inside my bones. It goes electric wavy when I turn it on. Off from my city, off from my home. We're flying up, no ceiling when we in our zone. I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off of it, moving so phenomenally. Room on lock the way we rock it, so don't stop. And under the lights when everything goes, nowhere to hide when I'm getting you close. When we move, well, you already know. So just imagine, just imagine. Nothing I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Feel a good, good creeping up on you. So just dance, dance, dance. Come on. All those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. And ain't nobody leaving soon, so keep dancing. Can't stop the feeling. So just dance, dance, dance. So just dance, 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 come on. Ooh, it's something magical. It's in the air, it's in my blood, it's rushing on. I don't need no reason, don't be control. I fly so high, no ceiling when I'm in my zone. Cause I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off of it, moving so phenomenally. You're more like the way we rock it, so don't stop, stop, stop. Under the lights when everything goes, nowhere to hide when I'm getting you close. When we move, well, you already know. So just imagine, just imagine. Nothing I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Feel a good, good creeping up on you. So just dance, dance, dance. Come on. All those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. And ain't nobody leaving soon, so keep dancing. Can't stop the feeling. So just dance, dance, dance. So just dance, dance, dance. Come on. So just dance, dance, dance. Stop the feeling, yeah. So keep dancing. Oh, yeah, yeah. I can't stop the. 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 Nothing I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Feel the good, good creeping up on you, so just dance, dance, dance. My body. I can't stop the feeling. Got this feeling in my body. I can't stop the feeling. Wanna see you move your body. I can't stop the feeling. Got this feeling in my body. Break it down. Got this feeling in my body. Can't stop the feeling. Got this feeling in my body. Come on. Hello, you know you look as sexy, your chemicals. Oh, ooh, let's go. You're the best way I know to escape the extraordinary. This world ain't for you, and I know for damn sure this world ain't for me. Lift off and say goodbye. Just let your fire set me free. Oh, moonshine, take us to the stars tonight. Take us to that space. Ooh, shake a little something. Ooh, throwing that thing from left, right, side to side. She gotta have her own money. She got her own money. Oh yeah. Shout out to the girls that pay they rent on time. If you ain't here to party, take your ass back home. If you getting naughty, baby, here's my phone. Slide with your boy to the bar. Slide with your boy to the car. I've been searching everywhere and now here you are.
We will be starting in a few minutes, guys. Make sure you have your pens, your paper, your tea, your coffee, your cake, and your soup. I believe the served soup will be starting in 2 minutes.
That drop it down in Daisy Dukes.
I wanna get down.
Yeah, them the ones I'm trying to recruit. I'm looking at you, yeah, you, baby. Now let me hear you say you're ready.
I'm ready.
Oh yeah, girl, you better have your hair weave strapped on tight. Cause once we get going, we rollin', we'll cha-cha till the morning. So just say alright.
Hello?
If you ain't here to party, take your ass back home. If you getting naughty, baby, here's my phone. Slide with your boy to the bar. Slide with your boy to the car. I've been searching everywhere and now here you are. Ooh, chunky. Looking for them girls with the big old hoops. That drop it down in Daisy Dukes.
I wanna get down.
Yeah, them the ones I'm trying to recruit. I'm looking at you, yeah, you, baby. You got what I want.
I got what you want.
Girl, you got what I need.
I got what you need.
37, 27, 42. Ooh, squeeze all of that in my coupe. Girl, I choose you. Junkie. Looking for them girls with the big old hoops. That drop it down in Daisy Dukes.
I wanna get down.
Yeah, them the ones I'm trying to recruit. I'm looking at you, yeah, you, baby, junkie. Looking for them girls with the big old hoops. That drop it down in Daisy Dukes.
I wanna get down.
Yeah, them the ones I'm trying to recruit.
Welcome, everybody. Oh, that was good, wasn't it? I learned something the other day. If people wouldn't shut up, someone said, right, well, everyone that's not talking, say to the person next to them, shh. And it silenced a room in like 10 seconds flat. Welcome, everybody, to Entrepreneurs for Good May event. I always get March and May confused. I do apologise. So welcome. Give yourselves a round of applause for turning up on a Tuesday evening. So my name is Daniel Henkel. I'm one of the people that started Entrepreneurs for Good. And before we start anything, we always forget this. We really wanted to start by saying we have a hashtag that we never promote, share, or tell anybody about. So on your tables, you should see a beautiful piece of paper that we made just now. They'll be better for the next one. And it'd be good if we could do like do you remember the phones for you? But we can't really do that. So ours is Aunt for Good, if you can do a G. So ENT for Good, if you can tweet or anything that you're using on social media. We're also on Facebook as well. So I just want to begin for those of you that's never been here before, just so I can see by show of hands, who's been to one of our events before? Okay, and if you've never been to an event, put your hand up. Fantastic. Okay, so we're part of a global entrepreneur movement called Entrepreneurs Institute, which was founded by Roger James Hamilton. It currently has a global network of over about 2 million people. We're streaming right now to their platform, which is Genius U, which is the world's largest entrepreneur movement platform. And at the minute, we're in at least 55 cities across 7 continents, and Manchester was one of the first handful that got started off. And we represent, what we do here is we promote and encourage business growth and creating businesses, but weaving around goodness within it. So, and that's where Entrepreneurs for Good was founded. And Entrepreneurs for Good is our way within the UK of promoting and sharing how you can build a business that's profitable, but at the same time existing for a purpose beyond your greater need. So at the minute, one of the things that really defined where we came from was a gentleman called Buckminster Fuller. And Buckminster Fuller was a scientist. He was also a theorist and a great philosopher. And he created something called the World Game. He was looking back then at how society has grown and technology has grown, but our consciousness to understand and work with each other has not. And this is where the discussions around AI and will AI or won't AI solve us or kill us, the reality is that where Buckminster worked all this out in the 60s and the 70s is that we already have all the resources that we need. We have all the food, all the water, all the materials. We have everything we need to coexist on this planet. What we have is a distribution problem. And he spent his whole life working out how we can go around addressing that. And he came up with something called the World Game. And within that, he was showing how we can map out all of the resources that we've got. And he did this long before the internet was even around. And then he delivered it in a platform to share with people. And before he could do that, he died, which is really unfortunate. However, his memory lives on. And what Roger's trying to do today with Entrepreneurs Institute and what we do with Entrepreneurs for Good is try and create a platform with which we can find and encourage businesses that deliver their products and what they do, but at the same time exist to contribute towards that world game and make the world a better place. And it is with... Apologies. And so what I really want to do is introduce at this point Lauren Coulman, who is this lady right here, who I have known for probably the last about year or so, maybe long before that. We met her at the wonderful Wonder Inn, which was just down the road. Lauren is the MD of Noisy Cricket, and she founded something called Free to Be Okay With Me, a positive body movement. And this year, she was named as one of the Want to Watch Northern Powerhouse Women of the Year. And so please give me a round of applause to introduce Lauren Coulman. Just check your mic, is that okay?
Hi. Thank you.
Lauren.
That was really kind.
So what's really interesting is when I was first speaking with Lauren, just to understand her story a little bit more, it was only when I was reading this, because Christina kindly put some notes down, that it said, named as one of the Want to Watch Northern Powerhouse Women of the Year. And as a typical Lancashire trait, we just forget these things, don't we, when we're introducing. So that kind of got omitted. Do you want to just begin, because I'm really interested? Obviously, to be nominated for something like that is an amazing achievement.
Oh, thank you.
And it doesn't come without a lot of hard work.
No.
So, in your own words, and where your journey began, that's the precursor to what you build that allowed you to be nominated for such a great award.
I guess the kind of genesis, and then getting to that point. I guess operating with purpose and being very true to that. I think it helps that a lot of my work plays into gender and equality more broadly. So recognising women who are booking trends, doing things differently, plays into how that came about as well. But also as well, you know, a lot of my work is based on networks and networking, and it was because of that and the amount of work that I'm involved in that I was nominated quite a few times, and for different awards as well. But the Future List, which I am one of a good few people from across the north, is a way of just saying, you know, this person's starting to make waves, which is very exciting, and you know, good things are coming.
Excellent.
Yes.
So I know that you started Noisy Cricket a couple of years ago. For the people that aren't aware, how would you summarise what Noisy Cricket is?
Okay, so Noisy Cricket is an organisation which builds people-powered movements around social issues, and what that's about is about bringing collective voices together, predominantly to create equality. So yeah, I get very deeply immersed in lots of different social issues, and work on strategy and research and lots of beautiful things around bringing people together.
And all of this, prior to you starting Noisy Cricket, you were travelling South America?
Yeah, so there was
right?
a gap between me starting up Noisy Cricket and Free to Be Okay with Me, and being made redundant from my corporate job.
Where was your corporate job? Are we allowed to say?
Yeah, that's okay. So I worked in fast-moving consumer goods in food and drink, for quite a innovative organisation, and I worked in digital, and basically various things came together to meant that opportunity wasn't working anymore. So I did the natural thing and went to South America. One, because it's a beautiful continent. Two, because I like how they dance and drink down there. And then
Which
three,
one did you like more?
we'll come back to that. And then thirdly, it's a place where a lot of social movements have been born or kind of shaped. So being the kind of geek that I am, it was a kind of education as well as a break and a way to get my head together before I kind of immersed into what really made me tick.
So you're in the UK working for like an FMCG sort of company.
Yeah.
You got made redundant. You've then decided, okay, I can go and get a job, or I'm going to go over and travel South
Yeah.
America,
Yeah.
learn, have some fun at the same time, enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And how long, when you got back then, at that stage, did you know you were going to begin and start Noisy Cricket, or?
Nope. So I'd kind of done a bit of work prior to being made redundant. I knew I wasn't like completely satisfied in that role or in the private sector anyway. And I'd already been kind of doing work around my purpose and what like excited me and where I thought I wanted to like do like the work for the rest of my life. So when I was made redundant, I was a little bit shocked. So within 6 weeks, I'd gone to South America, and within 6 weeks of coming back, I decided to set up Noisy Cricket and just being able to like take a step back and I didn't really think about it whilst I was travelling. It just kind of like bubbled under the surface. And when I came back, I knew I wanted to work in equality. I was leaning towards gender because that's something that's very personally important to me. Started speaking to a lot of different people. I was very fortunate to be tapped into like a very big network of people who achieved incredible things in my old career. And quickly realised that it would take me 10 years to get to a place where I could do the kind of work that I'm doing now. So someone just said, why don't you just set up? And I was like, and previously, having been a person who like thought everything through in too much detail and obsessed about things, it was literally that instant it just felt right. So I did it, which was a bit nuts.
So as a natural person, then you would say that you, under normal circumstances, would take things to the nth degree before you make that decision.
Absolutely. And it just ended up being a very kind of intuitive process. I didn't plan. The last 18 months in starting up have just been kind of feeling my way through it, and learning and growing from there rather than trying to obsess over what the end goal is. I know where I want to be long term, but the journey of how I get there is pretty fluid. Yeah.
So I might be jumping a little bit here, but one of the things we've really been looking at, me and Christina, is following that gut intuition. And besides the setting up of Noisy Cricket, were there any other moments along your journey where you don't need to think, you just know?
Yes. The other part of that was at the same time I set up Free to Be Okay with Me, which is now a body politics collective and community. We're on hiatus currently, but it came out of a very kind of personal experience around my body. Ended up speaking about it at a festival I was involved in organising a couple of years ago, and then very naturally people just started to gravitate towards the energy, and it just made absolute sense to me to run with it, and then it grew.
And for people that might not be aware of Free to Be Okay with Me, because that's how I met you originally, through Christina.
Yeah.
And ever since it's one of these things that as soon as you hear about it, you're like, yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
So if you haven't already got it from the name of the title, do you want to just explain to people what Free to Be Okay with Me is?
Yeah, so it's the idea that essentially the work we do is around enabling body freedom and acceptance, not just of your own body but of others. So the idea of being free to be okay with me, and we say that it's body politics rather than body positive, because the idea of loving your body is really freaking hard. We don't live in a vacuum. There's a lot of external noise. So the idea of free to be okay with me is about it's just fine, or it's a non-issue. It's kind of wherever you are on your journey, that's okay. If you are fat and want to lose weight, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. It's your body. It's your prerogative. But kind of the work is about the bigger collective piece and people feeding into that. So then you also learn a lot about other people's bodies as well and their experiences. And we found, again, it was a completely intuitive process. We felt our way through it for the past year and a half. And it just keeps creating very beautiful things. So
Fantastic. So, on the front of your, from a business perspective, I was surprised when I found out that your Noisy Cricket organisation was a limited company.
yes.
And I think that's because, in my head, a lot of businesses that are of that nature quite usually are social enterprises or community startups or things that revolve more around a funding element.
Yeah.
So I was really interested to find out what drove you to create a limited company, a for-profit company, but at the same time making sure that you're existing for something so honourable.
Yeah. So I always knew that Noisy Cricket would, from a financial point of view, would invest in other ideas or like invest in other models or ways of doing things. And for me, a limited company gave me more freedom to do that, so I could decide kind of where money might be invested or time and resource might be invested. But also, I think most importantly, it gave me options as to who I could work with. So I think with a social enterprise or a CIC, you tend to work with other like social enterprises or CICs or charities, whereas in the work Noisy Cricket does, thinks it's bigger picture. So it's about bringing everyone together, and that includes the private sector, because there's so much opportunity for, big corporates or small independents to add value and do work within social change. And what I didn't want to do was shut any doors through just the way I was structured.
Okay. And one of the things that we've learned from being in the EI communities, we do a lot around profiling. And so there's some people that are naturally quite creative and can look at a blank canvas and build something, and someone else might be much more into detail and be more about numbers and spreadsheets and accountancy as a basic level. From when you were, I suppose, I don't know your profile at the minute, by the way, but one of the things that struck me is that the way you've built Noisy Cricket has really been around people. You even refer to it as a people power movement, but you talked about the strength of your network and how it's the strength of your network. I think this is when we were talking about where'd you get your business from and how do you go about it? And that was another thing that struck me as being, you're very clear about that and very strong in it. So do you want to just share with people a bit about that?
So everything I do is based around an issue, of which naturally people are a part of. But in creating change, it kind of works in three ways. It could be systemic, so looking at power structures or different models like economic models, for example. It can be cultural, so changing people's beliefs and ideas, but then also there's a personal element, what you bring to it. And invariably, no matter how social change happens, it always starts with a person, but it only builds when you bring people into that. So for me, it always made sense that it would be a kind of people-led collective model. And that's what gives you the kind of freedom to bring lots of different voices in. And it's only when you kind of get everyone's perspective and everyone's input and ideas and work as a community around something, that you get kind of incredibly useful and impactful, but also sustainable and scalable solutions for change. So it's the only way it ever made sense to me. I can't imagine it working any other way. And, luckily I didn't think about it too much, but it works, which is nice.
Okay, that's excellent, is that?
Yeah.
So I can see who's in the room, who's not got a business or is in the early stages of starting a business. Are there many? A handful. Oh, quite a few more, actually. I'm always interested in this for everyone that's on their journey. What was it like when you first started off when you first created your first invoice and you first got paid? Because I can imagine it's, especially doing what you're doing and kind of taking that full leap without doing your due diligence. That must have been quite an interesting feeling.
Yeah, it was an absolute pittance. I thought it was like an absolute boon. Probably happy danced ridiculously, and felt in a really weird way you feel legitimate once that happens, because up until that point it's just in your head and you've completely made it up.
Crazy Lauren with the crazy ideas.
Yeah, exactly that. Oh dear.
It's okay.
Everyone's okay. Yeah, it was a really kind of like surreal feeling, and I still feel that way every time like I hit a new like benchmark or hit a new target or work with like new clients and it scales and grows. I'm still in awe of like what's been created, what I've created.
And as far as without having a background in, I'm assuming at university you didn't do business studies and.
I did marketing.
Oh, you did do marketing. That's good.
Which was joyful. And business studies were a part of it, but I had no kind of. I was saying to someone earlier that my marketing degree was in no way practical. I kind of went into marketing as a profession, and nothing kind of. If I hadn't have done a year in industry, I would have been completely like deer in the headlights. But everything I did, I just kind of like learnt as I went along and built on and grew. So I had a really great theoretical base, but from a practical point of view. And I didn't really, I've only just made the connection, but I hadn't really realised how much kind of like following my intuition has been a part of my career. But because it was more of a step change, it was only surprising when it came to starting up my own business.
Okay,
yeah.
Excellent. And throughout your journey, how much have coaches or mentors or I suppose a peer network and role model of people that you can rely on made an impact or a difference?
Yeah, so I'm really fortunate in that I've had a coach in my life for the past 8 years. So when I was much younger, I was on a scholarship for like marketing talent, the leaders of tomorrow, and I met her there. I was paired with her then, and we've worked together on and off since, so she knows me very well in kind of like my personal journey. So she's been kind of instrumental often in picking me up off the floor, like wiping away snot, tears, and then like patting me on my ass. Mentor-wise, I haven't been able to find anyone who really understands what it is I do or can come from it, so I'm only just starting to speak to mentors who can help me in different areas. So one for social impact, one in gender. I'm looking for someone who can help me kind of like scale. But peer mentoring has been the best part of it, really. So what I've found in my work is that generationally, people my age and younger tend to get what I'm doing and are very comfortable with the idea of kind of like flexing around a model and operating in the gaps in between, which is what Noisy Cricket tends to do. So I have peer mentors in really interesting areas. So a designer, someone who works as kind of like an agile like program developer, but all people who are immersed in social impact or are interested in making social change. And it's with those guys that the most interesting conversations have come about, because they just see things completely differently.
And
okay, closer.
oh, that's much better.
Hi. No worries.
Everyone, this is Lauren Coulman speaking now.
How much did everyone get percentage-wise? Yeah, good. Thank
I'll tell you what then, you can ask loads of good questions after the break. Even if we've covered them, we can cover them again.
Yes, that's fine.
What we'll do is we've got one more question, and then
Okay.
we'll be going for a break anyway.
Okay.
So we can pull up any questions then. And what you've said a word a couple of times, and it's not a word that's synonymous with business, and that's gender, in the sense of its purpose and why it's there. Mm-hmm. So how much is gender or your care to be around it and to talk about it, has that played an impact throughout your whole life, or something that's been something that you've dealt with more so as you've gone into your business career, or was it always there from day dot?
So personally, it's always been really important to me. I just didn't realise it for a very long time, because a lot of my experiences in corporate, my personal life have been shaped by gender and how it's kind of perceived or treated socially. It didn't really become apparent to me until my late 20s when I started to do more gender equality campaigning. But what I hadn't realised as well was how much it had informed my career up until that point and how kind of I operate in the world. Now I do things isn't always the way it's done in corporate. So I'm quite a deep and emotive person. I feel things very deeply. I see things quite holistically and I'm very future focused, so like big vision. And in corporate where there's a big focus on profit and short-termism, there often tends to be quite an individual type culture. So we celebrate individual success, it's less collective, which is not how I work at all, evidently. And kind of the idea of kind of being more relational and how you interact with people. Those things are really important to me and what I did best, but they kind of didn't come to the fore in the work I was doing previously. So that was the second piece. And then the third piece now is that I find doing the work I do, I could only do it if I'd have set up on my own. So setting up as an entrepreneur and as a startup allowed me to work how I want to work, which works brilliantly. And then the second part of it is, I guess, to that is that doing the work that I do, it allows me to face into some of those challenges around gender at a more kind of like strategic and social issue level. So I get to kind of, on a personal level, I've kind of worked out how it works for me. And now it's about being able to give back around that.
Yeah, so that ticks a lot of boxes then for you, so that when you're going through your journey, I suppose you can find the passion and the motivation to keep going even when it's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, that's super. So we're going to take a break, but before we do, today is just like it was last month. So last month, if anyone was here for our event last month, who was here last month? Excellent. Well, once again, we have a birthday, and this time it's Lauren's birthday today. So we'll have one little quick round of happy birthday, just because she said you don't do it, and then we're going to have, what do we have on a birthday? We have some cake. So, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lauren. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
So we're gonna get some cake for everybody. Now on your tables you will find a few documents. You should find one that says Opportunity Knocks. You don't got any documents. The Opportunity Knocks are. Here they are. So Opportunity Knocks is an opportunity for us to share amongst ourselves, because in this room is either, most likely, someone that you can help or someone that can help you. And it's okay coming to these events and you can hear someone speak and you can learn and meet other people and get some nice cake, but you just don't know where the next person is that you can share some contribution with each other. And it's a really big thing within the community that we promote, is an easy way for us to find the people that we want to connect with. So the sheets are fairly simple to fill out. We have a pin board at the back which Christina is going to hold up. And when you filled one in, just pin it up and have a look at the other ones, and you can take any people's details down. If you put your details on this for GDPR purposes and regulations, you are hereby approving that someone can copy your details. Just so that's said. So Opportunity Knocks is a way for us to do that. And at the same time, if you can have a think about what you've learnt so far from Lauren this morning, and then we'll have a bit of a longer questions Q&A at the end. So we will come back in about 15 minutes, guys. Thank you very much.
plastic bag, drifting through the wind, wanting to start again. Do you ever feel so paper thin, like a house of cards, one blow from caving in? Do you ever feel already buried deep, 6 feet under screens, but no one seems to hear a thing? Do you know that there's still a chance for you, 'cause there's a spark in you? You just gotta ignite the light and let it shine. Just on the night, like the 4th of July. 'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em what you work. Make 'em go, as you shoot across the sky. Baby, you're a firework. Come on, let your colors burst. Make 'em go, you're gonna leave 'em all in You don't have to feel like a wasted space. You're original, cannot be replaced. If you only knew what the future holds. After a hurricane comes a rainbow. Maybe a reason why all the doors are closed, so you could open one that leads you to the perfect road. Like a lightning bolt, your heart will glow, and when it's time to know, you just gotta ignite the light and let it shine. Just on the night, like the 4th of July. 'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em what you work. Make 'em go, as you shoot across the sky. Baby, you're a firework. Come on, let your colors burst. Make 'em go, you're gonna leave 'em all in Boom, boom, boom. Even brighter than the moon, moon, moon. It's always been inside of you, you, you. And now it's time to let it through. 'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em what you worth. Make 'em go, as you shoot across the sky. Baby, you're a firework. Come on, let your colors burst. Make 'em go, you're gonna leave 'em all in Even brighter than the moon, moon, moon. Boom, boom, boom. Even brighter than the moon, moon, moon.
If she listens very carefully to a room of conversation, she can feel the planet orbiting through space. She hears pieces of arguments, beginnings of jokes, and the odd lines of a song she cannot place. And it all makes up an image that resists interpretation, which is lately how she likes to see herself. How she does not believe in accidents, doesn't disagree out loud, and falls in love with every man she cannot help. And she thinks most people don't talk enough about how lucky they are. Most to get through the day. Most people don't talk enough about the love in their hearts, but she doesn't know most people feel that same way. If she focuses her energies on just walking through the neighborhood with depths and shallows nobody could sound, like January Christmas lights under billion-year-old stars, she comes up with more of what is lost than what is found. So by the time that she explains to me just a glimpse of what she's understood, she betrays the meaning, putting it in words. So she smiles at me lovingly and says, just let me hold your hand. So far it's the only way I can let myself be heard. And she thinks most people don't talk enough about how lucky they are. Most people don't know what it takes for me to get through the day. Most people don't talk enough about the love in their hearts, but she doesn't know most people feel that same way. And she thinks most people don't talk enough about how lucky they are. Most people don't know what it takes for me to get through the day. Most people don't talk enough about the love in their heart. But she doesn't know most people feel that same way. And she thinks most people don't talk enough about how lucky they are. Most people don't know what it takes for me to get through the day. Most people don't talk enough about the love in their hearts, that she doesn't know most people feel that same way. This is the last time that I will say these words. I remember the first time
that I was next to him. Looks like this could be the end. Know that you'll be alright. Maybe one day we'll be friends. But you know me, and I'm not that good at goodbyes. Sometimes it's best to just fly. That's where we're going. Oh, I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it. 'Cause I'm just going to the store, to the store. I'm just going to the store. You might not see me anymore. I'm just going to the store. I'm just going to the store, to the store. I'm just going to the store. You might not see me anymore. I'm just going to the store. Don't cry. I can't play pretend. We should head and come to this. But you know there's some things you can't mend. But you know me, and I'm not that good
because if you don't understand why it's happening, you put in a sticking plaster over things. So it was getting to the root cause of why it was happening. I then took that research and went to an organisation called the Manchester Homeless Partnership here in Manchester. So getting people to give more impactfully. So currently I'm working in an alternative giving campaign with 3 very innovative charities here in Manchester. And also as well, I have been working with Hyper Island on removing barriers to businesses employing people who've experienced homelessness. So we've kind of gone through the ideation phase. We have like some initial traction within the business community, and the next stage is to get that funded and that solution created so that we can scale and make more sustainable the employment of people who've experienced homelessness. So yes, that's something I'm incredibly proud of, and invariably my work, because it will start with one client or one person, other people get brought in, and then it starts to scale. So now I'm doing more work in other areas of homelessness to make impact, but bringing all of that work together. Does that help? Cool.
And I think that's that little bit where you touched on there, that's what I really loved when we spoke, because I said, well, where does the next client come from? And you said, just by proxy of you doing this project and speaking to those people, they get to see that you're the change maker and the catalyst in doing whatever you're doing, and that springboards to the next and the next.
That's exactly it. I work as a catalyst and a facilitator around change, and that involves empowering change makers, doing the facilitation piece, but then, like I said, because more people get involved in that, then it builds into a movement. So, you know, there's a huge amount of energy in the business community now. It's just turning that into action. So that's the ongoing work.
Excellent. So, any questions from over? Got a couple. Got one lady at the back. If you can shout out, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Alicia Perry from the US.
Oh,
Hello, Alicia.
I'm very good fortune to be here tonight.
You might be our first international participant. Yeah, give her a round of applause.
Thank you for happy to be here. So obviously you're a deep thinker, a deep feeler. You're my kind of girl. I'm shy as a
Hey.
Do you remember a time when you first realized that you were a change maker, a leader? Was it when you were a little kid, or
Yeah. So,
were you called bossy?
I was called bossy, yeah. They've all been told since. Yes, I was a very fair-minded child, and I also was not afraid of having a discussion around things that I thought were fair or not fair. So very early on, I wanted to be a lawyer, but I thought it's because I enjoyed debate, but it's not that. It was about justice and social justice. And that, unfortunately, got lost along the way. Kind of my voice went. I kind of got distracted by other things I thought I should be doing and living up to other people's expectations. So it took a long time to come back to myself. And I would say it's really bizarre. I don't think of myself as a change maker. I think of myself as someone who helps other people make change. That's a bit different. I guess we're free to be okay with me, because I've been the person who spearheaded that, but it's not just my work, it's a collective piece. So that, I guess that realization's still coming back together, but it was very early on that I felt quite strongly about equality. Yeah. Thank you. I love that question.
Super. You're going to keep that one?
Yeah.
And we had a question from the front here first, was it? Yourself? Yes?
Lovely.
You're welcome.
So, I would like to see myself as a change maker. I'm kind of at the very beginnings. And so my question is, how did you start? Like you said, you have this big vision.
Yeah.
And I have this really big vision. It's like up there.
Yeah.
So how do I get from where I'm now to, up there?
Yeah.
So the question is, if you have a really big vision like
Yeah.
yourself did, and you're perceiving it as so big and so great, and this is where you're at, how do you begin? Where do you start? And how do you get that traction?
Yeah. So, I guess just to clarify, my vision is huge. We've had a conversation about this in the break as well, and I don't shy away from that first. My vision is to have equal respect and value for the feminine as there is the masculine. That doesn't necessarily man or woman. It's a blend. It's a spectrum. Sex is sex, but gender is something entirely different. So to have equal value and respect for that, and for that to be lived and breathed, culturally, is what I want to see. But in terms of starting that, I started a couple of years ago. I knew gender was something that was personally very important to me, but I didn't know why. So I started with a tool called Ikigai, which is a Japanese concept where you find out your reason for being. And basically it takes you through what do you love? What are you great at? What can you get paid to do? And then what do you think the world needs? And you kind of work inwards. And mine basically came out and said, like, Gloria Steinem. So I was like, right,
Said
that's
what, sorry?
interesting. Gloria Steinem. Does everyone know who Gloria Steinem is? Yes. More talking. So basically, she's an incredible women's rights campaigner and writer. Two things that I love doing. So that would be the kind of end goal with that vision around it. So I realised Gloria Steinem, but I didn't realise what the kind of like purpose was or what the vision was. So that took a couple of years to kind of come together. And it was just me kind of keeping track of what bothered me. I think I don't like starting negatively, but finding out what pisses you off really helps. And then flipping it into what the positive is. And understanding what great would look like if you kind of like reverse that. And then it's step by step. So I have no clear path. I have some kind of understanding of where that might lead. So Noisy Cricket is one step on that journey for me. Noisy Cricket for me is about learning how to make change, to campaign, to bring lots of people into a piece of work. That will be something that stays with me hopefully the rest of my life, but that doesn't mean it'll be the only thing that I do. But I don't know what the next step is yet, and I just trust that will be revealed to me as I kind of move through, and it makes sense, just like working through Makey Guided, and then starting up Noisy Cricket was quite intuitive. So keep your eye on the prize, don't be frightened of how big and hairy that like end goal is, but keep pushing yourself along the way, because it can be quite terrifying. Yeah.
How does that help? Excellent.
Good. Good.
We had one lady at the back first. What's your name, sorry? Natasha. What's your question?
Hi.
Question is, how do you get, so obviously you said it's kind of one person and it's building this network around. How do you gather people around? How do you get people to buy into your, because it's not, obviously people might have the same idea, but it's obviously getting them to do it as you
Yeah.
want to do it.
So this is
Just to
interesting.
repeat that, because I'm got to submit this in my head. So the question is, how do you get people around yourself to buy into your idea and your vision and your journey and get them involved?
Okay, so this is an interesting one because Natasha is a part of Free to Be Okay with Me. So how did you come to be involved in Free to Be Okay with Me?
She was told.
I did not tell her anything.
I don't know it was through Christina, but it felt like, for me, it felt like it was almost like I stumbled across it. Like, obviously, like, the project you're doing, you're getting, businesses involved and things like that. How do you get it out there for them to be involved in it?
So I think having a really strong sense of purpose and having people rally around what that vision is. So Free to Be Okay with Me does what it says on the tin. You know what you're getting into when you get involved with that. So that's one part, really clear purpose and having other naturally people who believe in that and buy into it gravitate around that. I guess in terms of thinking bigger picture, the way in which people get drawn to smoke is through seeing it, because what Noisy Cricket does is operates in the gaps in between, so you can't always see and understand how it makes a difference until you've seen how it like kind of, it's like the water getting into the cracks and then pushing something apart and someone goes, oh my god, that makes absolute sense, and then they get involved. So for me it's quite an organic process. I don't kind of push, like, you either care about it or you don't. And if you care about it, that's why it's not hard to sell into businesses, because if there's someone in the organisation who cares about homelessness or wants to see more inclusive workplaces or believes that, you know, fat acceptance in the workplace is important, they will naturally come to you anyway. So I that's why I believe in starting with a person, and then it just kind of like spirals outwards, and it has to be natural, it has to be real. Does that help? Good.
Excellent.
Okay.
There was someone over here before I got to the back. Oh, sorry, it was the front, wasn't it? Yes. What's your name, sorry? Carolina.
That's okay.
Yeah, regarding when you do workshops or you help with strategy with companies, like when you started that, how do you get people? See, you said that people naturally gravitate towards maybe you, and that's easier once they start contacting you. But at the start, how do you get them to care about this thing? And we're like, what was the first company you did any kind of change?
Yeah. So
Yeah, no, I'm going to. So that's about like the very early stages of contacting those first companies and getting your message across and finding that person that might believe in it. Is that a good enough summary?
So it's like usually it's put to the side.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you get them to actually even?
So if they think it's fluffy, so how to get through the companies that think it's fluff to find the ones that think it's fortune?
yeah. Nice. Yeah, it's interesting. So within homelessness, I first worked with the partnership, but within kind of 3 months of starting that work, I already had a client within homelessness, and they'd seen me speak and share my research on the issue. So naturally, people who would come to those events would be interested in the issue more generally, and then people there might want to take it further. But I think generally you're a person who cares about things being fair, or you either care about purpose or you care about profit, or somewhere in between. There's no like one or the other, there's a spectrum. And you know, we live in a society where profit is like the mindset, or it's the overwhelming mindset. But part of my business model is based on the fact that new generations are coming through who care more about the world around them and the people around them and the bigger picture. And what you're seeing is a kind of like bottom-up pressure on society generally, but corporates as well. And corporates are starting to wake up to the fact that the dreaded millennial is coming into their power as consumers, but also as leaders in the workplace or in whatever sphere it is they work and influence in. And this generation and the generations coming after them are more likely to align with purposeful organisations. So I don't believe in making a business case for humanity. I think that's not okay. But at the same time, you can understand why businesses have to, because that's how it's currently modelled. But there is also a new wave of like entrepreneurs coming through who absolutely understand that purpose is profit and profit is purpose. So it's shifting very, very slowly. And the kind of people I tend to work with are people in older generations who have always cared about equality and about social issues. And then the most progressive work that I do is with younger generations, with people who get it, who are already making influence within, like they have a lot of power within their organisations, or they're setting up on their own and want to do something quite bold, and believe it's possible.
Excellent. How was that? Good.
Good.
Yes, sir. What's your name as well?
I'm Peter, and I'm with Leisha.
Hello, Peter.
Hello, Peter.
Person from the United States. So you've talked about something that's very important to me, which is intuition. curious, what does that mean to you? Where does your intuition come from?
Okay,
Access that, and how do you
that's
access that?
interesting.
So
No one's-
the question is,
Yeah, you go.
you talked about intuition,
Yeah.
which is important to Peter. Where do you get your information, your intuition from? How do you find you access it?
Okay, so one, no one's ever asked me that question, so thank you. Number two, I don't really know. It's intuitive. And bizarrely, it's one of the things I have never thought about. I guess in terms of where I feel it, it's in my stomach. Like it's a very gut instinctual. But then as I kind of get older and know myself better and read my emotional cues better, I know if something's really wrong because I will like start freaking out and becoming very anxious about something, and that will tell me much quicker than my mind will that something's not okay with this situation. So piece of work I was doing recently, something cropped up, it didn't feel right. I sat in it for like 3 days until it made sense to me, but just kind of followed that through and then addressed it based on my values and how I think those kind of things should be resolved. I guess from a positive perspective, it's if it feels good. It just feels very natural. There's no like, I might freak out, but it'll be a kind of mental thing more than an emotional thing. And that's the best way I can describe it. Does that help? It does. Okay. Is it very, very feeling based? Yeah. Yeah.
I think you're going to be exploring that now for the next year, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, give me a shout in 6 months and I'll have a really great, like, succinct answer.
I think intuition is one of those things that you don't even realise you do until you realise you do
No.
it, and then you start playing with it and
Yeah.
exploring it more.
And it's quite interesting because I am a very strategic person, and I think, but I'm strategic big picture wise, so I can, the way my mind works in maps, and I kind of pull stuff together. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And if things just fit together as well, I guess that's another way. But then that doesn't mean, like, I'm quite good with the numbers stuff as well. Probably less than the relational stuff, but, like, I'm not crap at it, which is good because I run a business, so. Yeah.
You don't have to be good at everything not to run a
No,
business.
and that's fine. As soon as I can afford to, someone else will do that wholly, but, yeah.
Awesome. One more question. Sammy.
Hi.
So, in 100 years from now, when you and I are sitting on a cloud or wherever it is we go,
I like it. Yeah.
You will not be sitting on a cloud. You'll be running through the jungle together.
I'll be able to get back into the next life. And I'd love to know, when we're looking down at everything you've built over this 100 years that you've spent on Earth, or however long that is, you're creating something so much bigger than you.
Yeah.
So, what, in 100 years from now, what are you going to look over and say, wow, I created that. I built
Oh my gosh. Number one.
So the
I love big vision.
Yeah.
To me, is a big vision.
so the
Yeah.
question to summarise that is basically tell us what your 100-year retrospectively looking back in 100 years' time. You're looking back with everything that you've done.
Yeah.
What do you see, and what would be your beautiful picture?
This number one that really overwhelmed me. Number two, I feel quite emotional thinking about that. And number three, I think, interestingly, I haven't really thought about it in those terms before, which I do for other people, but not necessarily for me, which I guess is quite typical when you work in something like you just flows out of you for other humans and other ideas but yours. I think if I think about the balance, the feminine and the masculine balance and like gender balance culture, for me, well, it would just basically be, I guess at a very extreme level, like a anarchy, people self-managing, self-coordinating, working together in a very kind of cooperative way. Businesses and networks would be much more fluid, but then I would also see people like working on a much more like local and intuitive level, but there being kind of a bigger sense of connection culturally. I guess I don't care to hear for the word gender ever again. It just is irrelevant. You're a human and you have a certain like values and behaviors and traits, and you are gloriously you. That that way of seeing the world. And I guess on a personal level, what that would mean is the ability to be much more intuitive, more feeling, value being placed on relationships and connection rather than money, and finding your gifts and then giving that out to the world. That would be like, I wouldn't need to be in heaven then, that would just be heaven. Yeah. Okay? That was very off the cuff.
I'm not even going to finish with the question. I'd just like to say at this point, can everyone please give Lauren a beautiful round of applause?
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. I want to just share one thing, because I took this one little soundbite you said in there, which I loved. And I think it's really good if you kind of don't know what you want to do. And she said, you don't like to start off on a negative, but you said, find out what really, really, really pisses you off, and then do the opposite and flip that on its head. And at that point, I started thinking about everything that I've done really, really well at, and the stuff that I might not have done really well at. And it's just it's so simple, isn't it? Yeah. No, it's not. So, and that made me think about yourself, because you were going through your journey of what you wanted to do. So I just want to just reiterate that in case that kind of glossed over people's heads. If you are unsure what you want to do, or if you're doing what you're doing and you want to check if it's what you should be doing, try the Lauren's piss off test and see if it works. So with that, I had a couple of people come up to me at the break, and I didn't really explain something earlier on. And I'm going to guess number 10? Yeah. So when we talked about Buckminster Fuller and his idea of the world game, one of the things that Roger got me to align with, and what he does all around his company and Entrepreneurs Institute, are the UN's global goals, which were created to identify 17 areas which, if as a society we can tackle individually, one area at a time, then collectively summed up together, we create a fairer, more sustainable and equal society. So every single month, what we decided to do as Entrepreneurs for Good for our socials is pick one of these areas. And obviously today is definitely going to be reduced inequalities. And you could probably touch on a few of the other ones. And I mentioned earlier on Genius U. A couple of you came up to ask what it was, because I threw it in there. Think about Genius U a little bit like Facebook, but only for entrepreneurs, and really focused around solving these 17 global goals. And so it's very difficult sometimes to think about, how do you do the big thing? Yeah. But there'll be people around the world doing what Lauren's doing, and you've probably met other people and you'll connect with them. So actually at a local level or a regional level or whatever level it is that you play at, if we all contribute towards one of these boxes every day, every week, every month, whatever feels right to you, then 100, 1,000, 10,000, you only have to add a 0 on each time to reach a stage of tipping point. And every single great movement around the planet, historically, today and in the future, began with one person saying, do you know what? I'm just going to start a business and do something about it. Because I don't know who said it, but it's, if not us, who? And if not now, when? So I encourage every single one of you, whatever you're doing, to just explore the UN Global Goals, go on Genius U, connect with other people that are in the room, think about your business and what it does, or even the place that you work at, because every single time you speak, you cast a vote, and every single time you spend a pound coin or a dollar, you cast another vote. And these are the things in today's climate that buys, our currency really does dictate where big companies will spend their money on research and development, and what we decide is right and wrong. So we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Genius U, we're on Meetup, we're on quite a lot of places at the minute. I encourage everyone to stay connected and speak to each other. We have, I mentioned earlier about profile tests. Absolutely can't stress enough how much me learning who I am changed my whole business. It changed me and Christina's relationship. Every single time we've profiled someone to understand who you are, the more you understand yourself, the greater you can understand somebody else. And it's only through self-exploration, as unfortunately we only learn as we get a little bit older. So the trick is to kind of do as much of it as you can as early on, because that really puts you on a good cemented base. So on Genius U, there's free profile tests. You can get deeper ones that are paid for. I don't care what you do, but explore yourself, learn who you are, so that then when you're going into business, you're doing the bits that you love, so that eventually someone can come and do the numbers, and then you can carry on doing all the best bits.
Correct.
Our next event is on the 12th of June. I would love everyone to put that into their calendars. It's the second Tuesday of June. We're having Sasha Atherton come, and I am not going to explain too much about what she does, but her companies are called the Happy Hair Box, and this is the one I love the most, Ethical Parents Recruitment. And she is an incredibly busy person, and we're so fortunate to have her come and share with us. There'll be a video going up soon, so I'm not going to spoil it for people. And last but not least, the last hand raise of the evening. Who has never been to Chapter 1 before? This place here. Oh, not so many this time. Excellent. Well, can I just ask, how beautiful is it? It's lovely, isn't it? So this is the wonderful Chapter 1 bookstore, which is a cross between a bookstore, a chill-out place, a coffee shop, and an event space. It's absolutely beautiful, and we're really grateful for them to give us this space and so we can put on these events. I want to say a huge thank you to the IOD, because it's the Institute of Directors that I'm part of, and that's our way of contributing into the UK's largest business organisation about how I've got to find a better way to say this, but inject purposeness and consciousness into businesses, so that the millennials that are finding their voice are coming forth now and creating this change. A big thank you to EI, Rogers Entrepreneurs Institute, because again, without them, this whole event wouldn't be here. And I think for the first time, all 5 people from Entrepreneurs for Good are in the room. So if you can put your hands up, please. We have Aaron over at the back there, we have Warren, we have Christina, and we have Carolina. So please would everyone just give, for everyone I've said, a round of applause. And to Lauren Coulman, our speaker for tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, go on, say.
If you want to get in touch, I am Lauren Coulman. It's spelled Coulman. So it's hard to find me, but then once you find me, it's very easy. LinkedIn, Twitter. So say hello. I would love to chat more. And thank you all for such brilliant questions and listening so beautifully. I very much appreciate it.
And we'll send an email out with full details as well, just so you can click some links also.
There we go.
So one last time, round of applause and congratulations, everyone.
Farewells with a restlessness reserved for those who believe in themselves. She thought the world was hers, so she made sure it bent beneath her will. She was as new and as ancient as the solar paneled hills. She was certain she could take this town by storm.